Ollie.
Alex.
I finally got you on a podcast. Now you're in my domain.
I'll never leave alive.
No, Ollie, I met you. It's really odd how I met you because
It was really weird, wasn't it?
such a coincidence because we met at MCM in November.
We did.
And we had a really good chat, just out of coincidence.
Yeah.
And then I first started talking to Shane Chebsey about this.
About a week later, wasn't it?
About a week later, he goes, I know a guy called Ollie. And it's not till I brought you up on Facebook, because I'm weird like that, that I was like,
there's the idiot now, isn't it?
Yeah. And you do a lot of the Comic-Cons and you go around.
I do a lot, yeah. Well, what happened, I started writing for Bleeding Cool about 5 years ago, only because Rich Johnson was getting a call out for anyone in areas that wasn't London to cover Comic-Cons. I started doing MCM, realised I wanted to do more than just cover Comic-Cons, which is basically just taking photos of cosplayers. And then got into reviewing, started writing for a smaller comic website called comiccon.com. And that's where I've been ever since for the last 2 years as one of the lead writers there.
You've got a real passion for it. You really have, because we were having a laugh earlier about... It was one of my first Comic-Cons. I can't remember who it was. Really, I'm trying to remember, but... I'm there, I'm brand new, I've never done this before, and I'm waiting to ask this guest this question, and I'm waiting for my gap. You know, the gap in the question.
I think it was David Morrissey, wasn't it, out of The Walking Dead?
It could have been, yes, it could have been. And I was like... and I put my hand up, and then I hear this booming voice in the back. Well, actually, did you do the... I was just like, Ollie.
Yeah, I've got no etiquette.
So this is my co-host, by the way. This is Shane.
Hello,
Right.
Shane. We met very briefly yesterday, didn't we?
Yeah. So let's talk about Comics Salopia. Have you been enjoying Comics Salopia?
I've loved it. I think what Shane and his whole gang are trying to do here is absolutely spectacular. I think having the balls to throw artists and creators into 2 shopping centres, I refuse to call them malls, we're in the UK here, I thought it was an absolutely wonderful idea. And I've heard a lot of positivity from those self-same creators. And what a beautiful town it is, Shrewsbury.
Really, that's all we've heard, you know. People from all walks of life come in and it's like, it's a beautiful town. You know, Frank Quietly was like, I got here early, I had a walk around town, and he's just like, it's really nice, you know, and it's really good for the locals to hear, because that's what we're all about, the Shrewsbury biscuit, you know.
Definitely.
Let's sell the town. And I think what Shane's he was trying to do was to, and Jane McKenzie as well, was to bring people into Shrewsbury, and I think they succeeded, you know. We just did our first panel, which was a bit nervy, but you know, I was like, who here is from out of town? And lots of people put their hand up, so success, I say.
I think so, and it'll only grow and grow, you see, and it can be tweaked and it can improve. I've been absolutely impressed how Shane and his whole gang have put all of this together, advertised it through social media, everywhere around Shrewsbury and beyond, and I think, you know, to realise that all of his gang have got full-time jobs as well, absolutely amazing. And I know how much effort he put into it way back in September when he had that big boat ride going down the river and trying to get people on board. Absolutely stunning.
I think I just missed that. I was like, I was doing Thor's Kin, but the biscuit wasn't up and running then, so I was like, I just missed it, dang. So what do you think your highlights have been for this festival so far?
Certainly Yannick Paquette, I must admit, because I knew it was going to be... Obviously, watching the Liverpool game last night, I call it the Liverpool game, there was no other team there. I'd already sort of kind of jokingly said in advance, look, I'm probably going to be drunk the next day. And
Truthfully, handball or no handball? Truthfully.
Oh, well, officially, technically, that was a handball, wasn't it? Technically, if you look at the rules, that was handball. It's not my fault he was pointing out. So look at that. Yeah. You expect more from professional football players. I think I was glad that there was a second goal from Liverpool, really.
Just to cancel it out.
Yeah, just so people couldn't complain. But I think seeing Yannick Paquette this morning, which should have been an art demo and then wasn't, and then him drawing a piece of artwork.
He was sat there next to us, wasn't he?
Sat there next to me, and then gifting it to me, absolutely wonderful. I've been a big fan of his right back from the 90s ABC Comics. So although that didn't go across, I told him afterwards, and he's just such a nice guy. I'd met him a couple of times before, and you know, they always say never meet your heroes. Well, I've not yet met someone from the comic book world who hasn't been a really great person, and often really modest about their talents.
Yeah. I mean, with Declan and with Frank, and a lot of people we spoke to, they're just kind of like, I just do what I do, I'm just I don't know, Frank a little bit more so. He's kind of like, nobody else had that same talent as me when I was in primary school.
I did hear that. But you know what? Why can't you be? I mean, my daughter's a very avid artist, and she knows she's the best one in her class. And I think there's something to be said for self-promotion, because not many people tell you how great you are. I tell myself I'm great every morning.
Well, you are. I'm loving the blazer.
To be fair, there's a lot to be said for that, because there's a lot of problems with mental health and stuff in today's world, and I all for that. Tell yourself every morning in the mirror that you're amazing.
You know what I mean?
You've got to.
I mean, I've just come out of an educational establishment that I'm not allowed to name, literally for legal reasons. But what you see in education as a whole, so I'm not pinning it to one establishment, is that you're constantly being crushed. You're not doing a good job. You're not going to. When you do a good job, right? Okay. What about what you're doing next time? And you're right. Mental health. I'm not surprised it's expanded in this country.
Yeah. Lots of pressure, especially with social media as well, because you've got that as well as what's going on academically. It's I would have hated to have been in school during the social media days.
Yeah, I'm so glad that Facebook wasn't a thing when I was at school.
No. I think it would definitely have turned me into a bit of a troll on Facebook, because I would have had no. I wanted to say something about the emerging talents as well that's been here. I've noticed there's lots of up and coming artists here standing there with their portfolios, ready to speak to editors, ready to learn off these heroes of the comic book world. And I think it's really encouraging, don't you think?
Oh, definitely. And I loved the way that they did it outside yesterday when it wasn't raining, and it just felt a little bit more chilled, a little more naturalistic. And then what you had is other creators like Kieran Gillen walking past and having a little look in and go, actually, do you mind if I give you a little bit of support on this? You can't buy that, can you? No. So I think that's something that Shane will no doubt replicate again if we've got the nice weather next year.
And we were speaking to a chap on the stairs. I was like, do you want to come in for a podcast? He goes, actually, no, I'm going to pop in to see Chris across the way, because he's, I want to get his advice. I was like, this is your journey, man.
Again, just to link it all together with some of the other conversations we've had with some of the other artists, and that it's been said several times about the talent and that's about. I mean, I'll say it again. We've said it a few times now in a few of the conversations, but everybody's success is obviously down to opportunity, and it's down to chance. So someone at some point, don't get me wrong, the talent is amazing, but someone at some point has given them open the gates and given them an in. At some point in their life, and what I quite like about what's going on here is that not only is, with other Comic Cons and stuff, sometimes you can queue for hours and you get a 30-second, handshake and quick selfie, off you go, next. Whereas this is, you got the artist mixing with general public essentially, which then opens the doors for opportunity for someone to then literally be like, look what I can do.
Yeah.
And it's that then could then potentially be the next generation of artists that's coming up.
I must admit, there was a couple of times last night with Eric Stevenson sitting opposite me. I wanted to pitch a comic book idea, and I thought, this is not the time.
No.
Which is a great shame, but I will never regret that. But I'll go and hunt him down on Facebook and sort of make friends with him that way. But no, you're right. I mean, look, you mentioned Chris Ryle from IDW, but, Eric Stevenson from Image. I mean, my goodness me, these two people in the same town and giving advice, and all these other artists giving advice, absolutely spectacular. It really is. And to be able to keep it all free as well for the majority of the events, I think it's, again, it just shows the hard work behind it and putting Shrewsbury on the map in the comic book community.
Yeah, it's been great.
And a lot of, at the end of the day, it comes down to confidence. And somebody who might be again, it's been said before that, I think it was Jamani Maddox that said, he says, in the world, you've got hundreds of the best in anything, best scientists, best sportsmen, best comedians, artists, whatever. But they never did it because they never tried, and never had the confidence to try. Whereas a setup like this, just showing a quick picture to someone who's been there and done it, and they're the best in their field, and so they're going, yeah, that's good. Right, okay. Let's go home, start doing some more, and that can literally be the first initial spark that then.
Certainly, and I certainly saw it in some of the more child-orientated panels. The Sarah Grayley one, 3 kids, and of course the last question was, how do I do this on which social media am I on? The great thing is, these kids already were on social media, so their question was, okay, I'm on Instagram, where else should I be? And of course, Sarah's a young enough creator who started at the age of 19 and then said she was drawing comics at the age of 12. That's a great role model. The Beano, exactly the same
The
thing.
Beano has thrown me off my axis because yesterday we were wandering around and I popped my head through the window there at the door, and all you could see was just reams of people waiting to go into the Beano talk. Kids holding their annuals and their comic books ready to get them signed, and it's just like, I didn't realise the Beano was so... I mean, I remember going and buying the Beano when I was a kid. It was like a tradition for me. But to see that it's still alive and it's still doing well is hugely encouraging.
It's quite amazing, isn't it? And I think I've been to a couple of Beano panels because obviously they celebrated 80 years last year. And it's always that. And the irony is it's full of kids, but it's always the dads that ask the question.
Yeah. But, you know, that memory of going into that talk and being in that environment is going to be with those kids for the rest of their lives.
And I know Nigel Parkinson, the guy who was running the whole show, really. I know there were other great artists there and creators, but he's got a certain thing about him, and he's a great ringleader. And again, he's a great ambassador for the Beano. He seems to be the Beano writ large.
Yeah. And you know, if you speak to people like John Wagner and Robbie Morrison and people like that, they'll say like, I got my inspiration from the comics I read as a child, and you hear it time and time again. So seeing all those kids,
and that's Beano, man.
You know?
That's that's Beano. That's dandy. That's
And I'm as amazed as you are that these things actually increase their readership. The Beano.
They are. We just spoke to John, the editor. Now he's saying those sales are booming. Like, you know, so hats off to them, because in a day and age where we've got tablets and devices and Xboxes and social medias and things like that, people still going out and buying the Beano.
Yeah, that's good.
Is that, you know?
80 years on, I might add.
Yeah.
You know,
Although,
what's that?
I was going to say they made more effort about Superman's 80th birthday last year, unfortunately. I mean, we did have a lot of celebration of the Beano, but it's interesting how the Beano and Superman were both created in the same year.
Yeah. Oh, we were talking about the British Dennis the Menace and the American Dennis the Menace and how they happened on the same year, just coincidentally.
Yeah,
they didn't even know about each other.
And they were saying in the panel they had to drop the Menace bit of Dennis the Menace for all. I hadn't even noticed that. I thought it was more to do with sort of being PC and sort of we don't want him to be as cruel as he once was. But that's interesting because, I mean, I'm aware of the American Dennis the Menace, but he's nowhere near as iconic as our Dennis the Menace.
No, those black and white stripes, those black and red stripes.
Yeah.
It's just,
I remember
there was a kid wearing a black and red stripe jersey yesterday.
I just wanted to take a moment to say like a huge thank you to everybody that's organised this, to Shane, to Charlie Adlard, to Jay McKenzie, and to Lynette as well. Adlard, you know, everybody that's just been, and Sarah Prince as well. She's been pretty instrumental through all this. And John Wagner as well. You know, having these calibre of artists that live just around here is just going to attract the talent that we've got. Chip Kidd, got Chip Kidd here, you know, and Frank Whiteley. Like, it's pretty astounding to have this sort of event happening in Shrewsbury.
Oh,
right?
I agree. I mean, I was shocked when Shane did a con a few years back in the park, how many creators actually live locally.
Yeah.
It's just a real hot pot. I can't believe it.
I was quite shocked because I forget his name now, the Go Jetters guy.
Phil Davis.
Phil Davis. So Phil Davis was like, you know, I was just chatting to him out in the courtyard, and I didn't really think that he was an artist at all. I thought he was just one of the organisers, you know. And we got chatting, and we were talking about another artist actually, and how, because there was a couple of guys looking at a portfolio on a bench. And we were like, oh, you don't get that very often. We were like, yeah, cool. And we got chatting. And he goes, yeah. He says, you know, I write for Go Jetters on CBeebies and done all this other work. I was like, what? We got him on the podcast. I won't say where it is, obviously.
He's local.
But basically, he lives 30 seconds away from where I grew up.
Wow.
And I was like, are you kidding me?
Wow.
Like, literally just down the road. Like, he knew exactly where my parents' house was when I described it to him. He goes, oh, yeah, I know where that is. I was like,
bizarre.
What?
And these little chance means, I mean, I was in a pub, which I usually am. It was around about Christmas time, and what Nostalgia and Comics, now called Worlds Apart, did in Birmingham every Christmas. They got the community together in a local pub, got them pizzas. I was sitting there chatting away. There's this guy in a sort of really grotty little jumper, Christmas stuff all around him. He goes out, and I'm just chatting away. Turned out it was Mark Farmer, the legendary Inca. And he was just down to earth and a real great guy.
Yeah.
He lives in Birmingham, always has done. It's quite amazing. And Birmingham, again, is quite a hot pot of creativity and talent as well.
Yeah, not just in comic books. I mean, music, actors,
bloody
everything,
heck.
man.
We did have anyway the late Peter Postlethwaite, who lives in Bishop's Castle, just literally half an hour away.
Right.
And my dad was fishing on a fishing port once, and this Land Rover pulled up behind him and out the window. He was like, how are you getting on? Dad's like, not bad, a bit quiet, and didn't really take much notice. Hear the door go, and as my dad sort of turned around and looked, and he comes out and sits next to my dad. And he was like, all right, and Dad's like...
I've heard, you know what? A mate of mine was at a wedding, and Peter Postlethwaite was there in Cheshire. And Peter Postlethwaite was the nicest man. Yeah. Started making everyone cheese on toast at midnight. How good is that? I always remember that story.
Yeah. I mean, it's just crazy. And when actually, because I didn't realise he was so local. When I actually got talking to my cousin who lives out that way, she was like, "Oh yeah, I went to school with his son." I was like,
"Whoa,
what?
That's nuts,
this is crazy. Like, what the hell?"
It's crazy. Let's talk a bit about you and what you're doing at the moment with the panels and the interviews and things, because I'm quite in awe of you, and I feel like I could learn a lot from you. Right, and he's like,
you're a good speaker, man. Yeah, you're a very good speaker.
You're a good speaker, but I feel like you can go from panel to panel to panel and just keep going. How do you do that? How do you keep your engine running and just be interesting? Because that's what you got to be.
Yeah, it's obviously the enthusiasm for the love of the comics. When I first started doing it, I put a lot of effort into researching the panels, and I did for Hellboy today because it's 25 years. But what I've learnt more and more is it's just easier going in there with a very brief idea of where it's going. You're not the star, they are. And as long as you're asking the right questions, the conversation will flow. And certainly, I don't know whether it's by coincidence or by design, I get a lot of Sunday panels. So in Portsmouth, where I was at the beginning of May, I had a lot of Sunday panels. And of course, everyone's a bit hungover. There seems to be a bit more looseness to the conversation.
There is today. There definitely is today. I
think as you do it more and more, Alex, and of course you'll come back next year and do more panels, when you get to see these people a second and third time, you're no longer intimidated. You know the ones who will talk, and you know the ones who might need a little bit of encouraging. But don't forget, my background in teaching, I think, helps a lot.
Yeah.
And as you know now, I do like talking.
Apart from Charlie Adlard, I don't know what it is. We keep saying this on the show that I don't know what it is about Charlie Adlard, but I turn into a shy little 16-year-old girl when I'm around him.
He does.
And I don't know what it is about. Like, I think I'm still a bit starstruck by him. He's been to my house. We've done interviews at my house, Well,
maybe that'll fade though, because first time I met, and Charlie Adlard was him and Bob Layton, legendary Iron Man artist. And this was at Shane's Ice in Birmingham a few years back. They were the first two people I ever interviewed, and I did the stupidest question for Charlie Adlard. What's your favourite zombie film? And to be fair, he rolled his eyes and he said, "Oh, you're not going to ask me that one, really, are you?" And he was very helpful in sort of guiding me through that. And that was quite wonderful. So he'll go with in it. And I can understand why you would be sort of in awe of someone who cranks out The Walking Dead.
Yeah,
and he's a bit of a local celebrity.
And he's like in my kitchen at the time as well. And it's funny because Tom, my co-host, he's like, it's an understatement to say he's an X-Files fan. He loves the X-Files, and of course Charlie did the X-Files.
He did.
Tom was nearly in tears. He was on the internet. He's in America. He's on the screen. He's like, he's choking up, and it was his line to say something, and we kind of and Charlie was like, "Come on, guys, ask me questions." And I was like, "Okay, what's your favourite colour?" I don't know what I said, but it's definitely a learning curve, and I think it was actually Charlie that helped me realise that these are people, like down to earth people as well, like you were saying, and I'm really honoured to be part of this, and I'm happy to bring my team with me as well, because they've been fantastic, And thank you.
You've worked your backside off all weekend, the two of you, haven't you?
Yeah, we've been all over social media, and Jodie as well, and Adam. Adam is.
Bless him. Yeah.
We tried to get him on the podcast last night, but he's very shy. He's kind of like, hello. He's a good photographer. That's why we keep him.
That's why he doesn't.
He did say he would jump on, but he lives behind the camera. He goes, that's where my bit is, and I was like, fair enough. But
yeah. So I will be seeing. I'm going to ICE in Birmingham in August, and I'm going to try and get to Telford as well to the Wales Comic Con.
Yeah, I might do that one. I know the funny thing is I went to art college in Wrexham, and yet I've never been to any of the Wrexham shows. And I do know they have a number of comic book artists.
They get some amazing guests.
Yeah, but they do tend to promote more the actors than the comic book creators. Yeah. But with it being in Telford, I think maybe I'll probably go to that one.
Yeah, because we see each other at all the time anyway.
Oh, there's MCM as well, isn't there, in November?
Yes, there is. I'm going to try. We will get to that one. But thank you for all your support, because you have been really supportive to me, like since we
Yeah,
met coincidentally.
thank you.
You know, and what else have you got on today? You got any more panels to do?
That's it. I've done all 4 panels. I think from now on, it's going back and saying hello to people that I said hello to last night. It's catching up with people, getting a bite to eat.
Go for a pint.
Going for a pint or 2 or 3.
Or 10 or...
Yeah, well, I've come on the train for a reason.
I'm actually going to go to bed when I finish this, because
I don't blame you, mate.
I've got a podcast at 3:00 in the morning. I'm appearing on some other show, so I've got to go and get some sleep. I don't stop, man. I got an interview in the morning. It's at 2:00 at the Flax Mill as well, so I'm just non-stop. Like.
Well, that's the way to be. If you enjoy it, the energy keeps you going, doesn't
Well,
it?
this is more. It's more for Shrewsbury than anything. Like, I do this to help the town, you know. So, and it's a passion of mine. So it kind of goes hand in hand, really. I enjoy it. You know, but thanks for sitting with
You
us.
definitely look the part, put it that way. I love that jacket.
The Spider-Man
I
blazer.
bought it
I
especially
love
for
that
cons,
jacket.
so I'm appreciating the
Where did you
love.
get it? Where did you get it from?
I got it online. Funnily enough, last year at London Film and Comic Con, there were a load of people wearing sort of Star Wars jackets. And I went online. It's a company called, I don't know, Opposite. and I saw this Spider-Man one. And I just thought, I just wanted something, as well as my big voice and moustache, to make me stand out from other panellists. And I bought it online. It got its first showing in Portsmouth and its second showing today.
That's
so, yeah,
amazing.
I appreciate it.
It's
Appreciate
brilliant.
it.
I might actually have to see if I can get one.
I think
For the
They are
listeners, by the
good.
way, Ollie is sat in front of me right now with a suit jacket that's literally Spider-Man. It is bright red with a web all over it, with a spider on the chest. It is amazing.
You're absolutely
amazing.
killing it, baby. Thank you, Ollie, for joining us.
Cheers,
you.
guys.
Cheers.